Sam Borden here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Sam?
Hey, Rich. How's it going, man?
I'm doing fine. So is this like a Jack Bauer day for you? Like where you haven't slept in 24 hours? Something like that for you?
You know, something like that. Yeah, something like that. We got up at 3. My alarm went off at 3:03 this morning, and we were down at the hotel around 4. And, yeah, it was a long day. The cops showed up around 6, and it just kind of went from there.
So first of all, so you go to the hotel because did you hear something was happening? Something was afoot? Why were you in the hotel at 4 in the morning watching this happen?
I mean, I'm the low man on the reporting totem pole here. I mean, there were 4 of us that worked on this story over the past few days, and guys in Washington and New York, and then me over here in Europe, and trying to kind of get at the story from a lot of different angles. And our reporting, we had good sources, in a lot of different places that were pointing to something happening at that hotel this morning, in the early hours. And so myself and a colleague, Mike Schmidt, and a photographer were there and sort of blanketed the place and, managed to avoid the security they had, and were able to get some great photos and get some great access to what went down. It was pretty crazy.
So walk me through it. These plainclothesmen walk in the door and suddenly start arresting people?
Well, I mean, it's funny. Like, obviously, as you said, I mean, my background is as a sports reporter. I covered the Giants and the Yankees before that, and I was sort of imagining like an arrest like you'd see in the American movies. Like cops wearing vests, and guns or something like that, and banging on doors. And it really wasn't like that at all. I mean, like 16 cops showed up, but they were plain clothes. I mean, they were wearing like jeans and messenger bags and stuff like that. It was really sort of strange. And they very calmly talked to the front desk clerk and showed them what we believe to be arrest warrants, and obviously got the room numbers of the people that they were there to take. And while this was sort of going on, I managed to slip up into the the floors where the rooms were, and I was able to see one of the arrests actually go down, and it was like very calm. I mean, if you were sleeping in the room next to the guy that was being arrested, I'm not even sure you would have woken up,
Wow. Sam Borden of the New York Times here on the Rich Eisen Show. So was somebody just basically in their skivvies, just opening the door, thinking it might be room service, and it's the Swiss authorities to take them to Brooklyn as part of a U.S. sting operation?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because one of my colleagues was asking me about that too. My sense was that I wasn't in the lobby because like I said, I slipped up into the floors. But it sounds like the concierge or the guy at the front desk called these guys and said, "Hey, look, you got to come to the door in 2 minutes, or else they're going to break it down." And so they, the guy that I saw was dressed. I mean, he looked sleepy, and he was wearing sweats. But it wasn't like they roused him from a slumber or anything like that. I mean, it was all very peaceful too. I mean, these guys went, there was no handcuffs, there were no guns drawn or anything like that. It was like peaceful down the elevator into a car outside. And maybe some of you saw the hotel was holding up these white bed sheets to try to shield these guys from being seen, which was sort of a comical element to the whole thing, as everybody was on the street watching it happen.
Well, I think they're trying to protect their Yelp rating, Sam, right?
Yeah, TripAdvisor for sure is going to take a hit after that.
If you get arrested in our hotel, we give you the sheets, so you're not getting your pictures taken. I got Sam Borden of the New York Times here on the Rich Eisen Show. So what happens now, Sam? What next? What happens here?
It sounds like these guys, I mean, I guess they have the right to appeal their extradition to America. If they don't, then they'll be extradited, to the United States and face charges. And, Loretta Lynch, I mean, had a very strong press conference with the director of the FBI and IRS officials. And, I mean, they laid out what is a very strong case. And then you combine that with the sort of simultaneous investigation that was going on run by Swiss police, which was looking at sort of the Qatar and the Russia World Cup bidding process. There's a lot, there's a lot of FIFA officials with a lot of things to answer for, in the near future. And I think, it's hard to say exactly how this is going to turn global soccer, but I think, there's no question it's going to change it in some form or fashion, whether that means, Sepp Blatter isn't reelected president on Friday, which everybody seems to think is a lock. But this changes things, and I'll be curious to see how that plays out. And even if it doesn't, there are now a lot of big-time soccer officials facing a lot of serious charges who knows what other chips may fall as, you know, those guys work out plea deals and talk to investigators going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen the movies, Sam. We know the way this thing works. You know, we're not the babe in the woods, to use the Goodfellas phrase right here, that this is all trying to maybe squeeze people to get the top man, right? Isn't that what this is all about? That it's Sepp Blatter, even though he wasn't indicted, wasn't arrested, it's to see who's going to talk. Is that what this is, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not a police guy or anything, but that seems like very reasonable logic. And I think that, you know, it was interesting. In any other corporation or company in the world, if you were the president and this much scandal and controversy had gone on over 25 years or 24 years, you know, there's no way you'd be in this job right now the way Blatter is. And so, you know, people inside and outside of soccer wonder if and when Blatter will ever have to answer for all that has gone on under his watch. And, you know, I don't think it's a terrible stretch to think that that's certainly something that's on the mind of the investigators both in Switzerland and in the United States when they're, you know, kind of beginning this process of rounding up these guys. So,
Sam, do you think, just again, I know we're at a very first blush aspect. Do you think when it's all said and done, the 2018 and 2022 games go down as planned? Or do you think this is the beginning of upsetting of that apple cart?
You know, it's really hard for me to say. I mean, I think the only professional sports are really unpredictable. And then once I moved over to Europe, I found out that, you know, global sports are even more unpredictable than American sports. So, it'd be impossible for me to predict. My sense is that history shows us that FIFA changes really, really, really slowly, you know, if it ever changes at all. So, you know, it's hard for me to say, yeah, they're going to rerun that vote, but certainly nobody saw this kind of an operation coming, and so I can't predict that there is not going to be something bigger down the line.
Sam, this has to rank the top, right, of your professional experience going upstairs in a hotel and seeing arrests go down in an international sports bust like this. That's bizarre, Sam, to say the least.
I guess. I mean, you know, I guess right up there with, you know, the Yankees and coming back from 3-0 down in the ALCS in 04 and interviewing Eli Manning, you know, after some regular season game against the, you know, the Eagles. This one is certainly right up there. It was definitely a real experience.
Sam, thanks. I know you're wiped out, tired, pulled it so many different ways talking about this, so I appreciate you calling in from Zurich.
Yeah, my pleasure, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. That's Sam Borden of the New York Times here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.